goodness only knows what. I don't know where these two fellas came up with the idea or why or what, but it's a smash. And Gary and Jerry have done very well by this. Ladies and gentlemen, Buckner and Garcia.
And I'm headed to the arcade. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm bringing everything I made. I got a callus on my finger and my shoulder's hurting too. I'm gonna eat them all up just as soon as the time grew. 'Cause I got Pac Man Fever.
Let us meet in the middle. Come on over. Oh, that's strange. That really is strange. Now, since this is your first visit, I'm entitled to do this, I think. Jerry, Gary, Buckner, Garcia, did I sort it out right?
That's correct.
All right. What inspired you?
Well, we were playing the game last summer, and in fact, we'll play any game. We love to play games and had so much fun with it, decided that let's do a record on it.
Yeah, there's a whole generation of parents ready to hang you out there. I mean, just compounding this thing. They can't find their kids now. Have you written together for a long time?
We've been writing together for many years. Friends since junior high school.
Where was that?
In Akron, Ohio. It's Simon Perkins Junior High in Akron, Ohio. For anybody out there.
Simon Perkins Junior High.
All right.
Hey, let's hear it for Simon Perkins. I remember playing Akron, Ohio with the Caravan of Stars a lot of times. Akron, if there is any birthplace of rock and roll, is probably it, because that was where the late great Alan Freed came from. How'd you end up in Atlanta, Georgia?
We had some friends down there that were in the music business, and Jerry went down first, and then I followed about 4 or 5 years afterwards, and it's just a great town to live in.
Aside from that, I know it's a lovely place, and it has all the attributes of a major city. Why music there all of a sudden?
There seems to be a flow of musicians and people coming into the Atlanta area, and It's just a great place, exciting, electric there, and a lot of great music. A lot of people having a good time there.
Speaking of electric, what will this craziness do to your lives? Will you stay as record producers and writers? Will it take you into other fields? Where's it going to go from here?
Well, the new album's coming out, and it's got a lot of other video game material songs on it.
More?
Oh, we got a whole bunch of them. We've got songs like "Do the Donkey Kong," "Ode to a Centipede," "Froggy's Lament," all game songs, "Mousetrap," "Berserk," and it's opening up a lot of avenues that we weren't expecting. So we're just kind of going to follow the road and take it wherever it leads us.
I wish you the greatest success. You're going to go out on the road and work so people can come see and hear and play and do all that stuff?
Sure are.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, can you give a warm University of North Georgia welcome to Jerry Buckner?
You know what it's like to watch a video that it's kind of agonizing to hear what you say in the interview. The Simon Perkins Junior High School line was just come out of my mouth out of nowhere. But the funny thing is, after the show, a lot of the kids that were there, they came up to talk to us. And one of the kids said, "Yeah, I'm from Akron and I went to Simon Perkins." But, I always felt like such a stupid comment. And, when you watch yourself being interviewed, you see those things and you go, "Oh, what was I thinking?" But it was great doing the show. Dick Clark, he won't let you die. He would jump in and say something, but yeah, that was a few years ago that happened.
Yeah, well, can you put this in context? We have some folks on Zoom and here that would recognize American Bandstand and who Dick Clark was, but I assume most of the students don't know who that is. Like, can you kind of put that in context? Like, what did it mean to be on American Bandstand?
Oh, that was the ultimate. We grew up watching that American Bandstand on television, and it was just as huge. It was the show in those days because you had 3 channels. And yeah, everybody that's ever been on there, groups, everybody always says that was the pinnacle, I guess would be the word, back in those days to be able to be on that show. It was just a very big deal and an honor. And Dick Clark was very famous and a lot of other things. So, but yeah, that was really it was a scary moment because we're on network television, and I remember thinking, I don't want to talk. Of course, he asked me the first question naturally, but yeah, we did a lot of interviews and all over the country and everything. But that one was playing on there, and I remember they had, we were in a dressing room. They did 6 shows on a weekend, is what they did in those days at ABC. And so there was other groups. Huey Lewis and the News was there, and they were next door to us, and just a bunch of groups from the '80s, was there. And Dick Clark comes in to talk to us just before the show, and he's got a sweatshirt on and jeans, and you're not used to seeing that. But we all grew up watching after school, watching a bunch of kids dance to all the records, and so maybe too long of an answer, but yeah, it was a special thing to be on that show. Well, I think before even music, I was thinking about it today, and I think it was in my blood because when I was, I think, excuse me, 5 or 6 years old, and we were living in Akron, Ohio, and I think I cut up a bunch of flowers of the landlady that owned the house that my family was living in, and I went around selling the flowers. And I was very proud of that, making money. And of course, the lady called my mom, and my mom said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I had a little wagon, and I pulled my wagon." So I think that was in me from wanting to do my own thing at the beginning. But music, getting into music, when I was in high school, I was playing in a band. Of course, back in the '60s, the Beatles and all that stuff hit, and there was dances every night and all that. And I love sports, and the coach of my high school said, "Hey, we need you on the football team." And I thought, well, yeah, but I'm in a band and making money, and the girls like all of us and all that sort of thing. And why do I want to go out in a football field and get beat up? So I turned that down. So I decided to go into music, and that's from there on. It was just a driving force in me. It's what I wanted to do. I love to write music and songs. I didn't know anything about the business, had no idea what I was doing, but I had the drive in me. And Gary, my friend and partner, who's passed away sadly, we both had that drive. And you got to have the drive, and you got to love what you're doing. And we loved doing it, even though rejection after rejection. I mean, we used to, we would take songs into people, and they'd listen to, a few seconds ago, yeah, it's okay, but here, let me play you a hit, and they'd play some other thing, and very discouraging. You walk out the door and think, what happened? I thought we had a pretty good song there, and so you got to get, you're going to have a lot of rejection. I mean, not all the time. Some people get lucky early on, but uh, it's I used to say it's a war, and it's probably the same thing in corporate. It's you're competing against everybody in the world, and so you just got to keep at it, and believe in what you're doing, and believe in yourself, and just keep going. And it was just a natural process for me, I guess, because I just wanted to keep dry. I wanted to have success. I wanted to make some money, and have some success in doing what I like to do.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like the textbook we use in this class is the entrepreneurial roller coaster. And so I'll talk about these highs and lows. And the first chapter is about meeting the height requirement. Can you ride the roller coaster? Have you prepared yourself? And the second chapter is on strapping yourself in because you're going to get knocked all around. So that's what we wanted to hear, the highs and the lows. It sounds like you've had, a lot of rejections early on. Like, how did you
One
make
time
that?
we went, we would produce our own songs and records early on, and we had this song that we were trying to get the local radio stations to play, and it was kind of a crazy song. Excuse me. And we went into one particular radio station, and the music director, listened to a little bit of our song, and and he said, yeah, it's okay, but let me play you a hit. And he put on some song by a major group that was, at the time. And my partner had a little bit of a short temper, and he said, anybody could predict that. Well, the guy gets mad because you didn't disrespect a music director at a radio station in those days, because that was it. That's the only way you got your music out. And the guy gets mad and tells us to get out of the radio station. He'd never play any of our music again. He took the record off the turntable, broke it, which was not easy to do. I mean, and he just and threw it at us, and it hit the wall next to Gary's head, and the cussing and yelling and get out of this radio station. And so we did. And the funny thing is, years later, when Pac Man was a big hit, CBS Records called our management, and they said, there's this big station and they won't play your record. The music director had some kind of problem in the past. It was that same guy. He had moved up to a bigger station, and but they played it. They didn't have any choice. He just said that because he was, didn't like us. But so, that's just an example of some of the stuff that could happen. And just I remember one time we took a record in to play for a guy at a record company, and he goes on and on about all what's wrong with it, and all, on and on and on. And finally he looks at us, because we didn't say a word, and he says, well, he said, that's just my opinion, but that's what you came here for. And I said, no, we didn't come here for your opinion. We came here to try to place a record with your record company. Get out. So those kind of stories. But we just we believed that we could do it. But you got to learn as you go, whatever you're doing. You're going to learn more about it, and you may even get to a point where you decide, maybe this isn't what I want to do. But it's really something. I mean, you got to get kicked around, but you just got to keep showing up and learning, and like, we made a mistake here, so don't do that again, and that kind of thing. But we were like a locomotive. I mean, we were not going to be denied. You're not going to, you can say what you want to us, throw us out, we're coming back. We're going to keep coming till we get it.
Is that because it was you and Gary, like as a team? Because we talked in this course about finding the right people to put, in your team, and finding people with like-minded individuals. I mean, you have done that on your own, you believe, or was it because of you having, somebody there with you?
Well, I don't know what the outcome would have. I would have continued on. Yes. The good thing about Gary and I were we were able to, take the hits and bruises and everything, and and get through it together. We were actually a perfect team. What I lacked, he had, and vice versa. So that worked for us, and it did help for the two of us. I would have kept going. Now, whether I would have had success, who knows? But I wasn't going to stop. I mean, it's like I believed in it. I loved writing. I thought I had a little bit of ability in that area, and I didn't even consider quitting. Never.
Yeah. Would it be the same advice? We talked to students in here, some who have passion, like they know what they want to do. Others aren't at that stage, not really sure what. They're here. They took entrepreneurial course, 30-10. So something in them spoke about, maybe
Sure.
you should do something here. So what kind of advice for students that aren't really sure, what they should be doing or could be doing, and maybe getting a little nervous that, they're behind others?
Well, I wouldn't do anything that I didn't really want to do, that I wouldn't, enjoy, because, who wants to be trying to do something and getting, negative uh, results from it, and you don't really care about it. So I would say, you need to uh, decide that this is something you really want to do. Um, I remember a quote by some famous actor. I can't remember his name or whatever, but somebody was asking him about, how do I become a successful actor, this or that. And he said, well, let me ask you something. He said, do you want to act or do you have to act? And that was a great question, because it's kind of like, yeah, do you want to do this, whatever your idea is, or do you have to do it? Is it that much inside of you? So I think you'll know uh, at some point what you want to do, and maybe what you don't want to do. But I think you'll know, because what's going to happen to anybody doing their own thing is, sometime, somewhere, while you're working, a door will open for you. You just got to be prepared so you can go through the door and go to the next level. Um, and that happens, I think, to, I've got a lot of friends that's done different things, and those are kind of standard steps that you take, I think, at least for me, it was.
Yeah. What is it? I picture in the ideal world, you've got financial support and you can just do your thing and experiment and things will fail or not fail. But that's usually not the case. You need to do something to make the money to then do the thing. Did you and Gary struggle with that? Like how to,
Oh yeah, we were broke all the time. We were broke all the time. I mean, we didn't, you know, we one time we were so bad we took bottles back to get the 2 cents, 3 cents on, just so we could get something to eat. Uh, yeah, it, it it's interesting, that whole aspect. Uh, you just keep going, and and making deals and trying to, and it's so funny, because then when you get to a certain point, I remember when Pac Man, it was a big hit already, and our manager, they had a big news thing for us at an arcade. Everybody was invited, all the news people, and our manager took us in this little bathroom at this place they had rented, this game room, and he hands us envelope, said, "Here's a little taste." And I opened the envelope. It was $60,000, a check for 60 grand. He said, "That's just the beginning." And it's great, but it's the idea of the success, though, that really is, believe it or not, is just as much as getting the money, because you've said, "Hey, all this work, all these years, we finally got to this point, but let's keep going." Uh, but it can't be just the money. It's got to be inside of you, that you really want to do this, because everybody, there's people out there, and if they got more uh, desire than you do, that you're going to get left behind. I mean, you're going to be competing with everybody, and mainly with yourself. That's who you really compete with. So I just drive. That's all I can tell you, is you just got to drive, drive, drive at what you're doing.
another thing I've heard from students is, there's so many options pulled in multiple directions. I could be doing this or that. I want to try this and the other thing. Like, is there any key to, like, how do you focus on one? Are there any options that you had, maybe you passed up, that you wished you hadn't passed up, or took the wrong path, or, how do you know which options to take and where to go?
That's tough, Matt. That's tough. You got to follow your heart. I mean, you got to, and you're going to make bad choices or wrong choices, not necessarily bad choices. I mean, it's just going to happen. it's a learning experience. You know, you just keep. I look back on our early days, and and we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea, and but you keep learning, and uh, it's tough to. You just gotta go, like I say, go with your gut, go with your heart, and say, I think I should try this, and maybe it works, and then maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, you go, okay, well, I'll do that again. But uh, you just gotta you just gotta keep learning what about your whatever you're doing. Learning more about what you decided to do. It's a ongoing. I still learn now what I'm doing. I still learn stuff, and you just got to be open. Like going to this class is a great thing to start with and get some ideas, get rolling. Um, but it's got to be something. Again, I keep saying it's got to be something inside that you really want to do.
Yeah. Well, another a component of this class in terms of grade is connecting. The students are required to get on LinkedIn and connect with people and meet people and that sort of thing. So maybe you can kind of support that, that importance of networking, connecting, finding the right people. I mean, you don't really know who it is and where they are, but what did you do early in your career to just connect with people and build some opportunities?
Well, of course, now, with the internet and all, you can connect, really so much better than back when we were coming up. Um, we would just go different places. If there's an opportunity, we used to go to Cleveland. That was a big deal to us to go there. And then to try to, we take our tapes and songs and go up there and then we ended up going to New York and all these different places. I'm trying to figure our business versus regular business, but business is business, I guess. The bad thing about our business is that you're so dependent on other people to help you get where you want to go. Whereas if you decide you want to open a restaurant or something, then you can work real hard and have hands on, so that's one thing that was bad about our business. So just having to rely on other people to like what you're doing to make a success out of it.
Well, that struck me when you were talking about that, getting your record out there, which is kind of a strange concept because now if you want to get your message out there, your music out there, you turn on your webcam and strum your guitar and play your piano and upload it to YouTube or Spotify and there it is. And I know students don't like to hear about how things were tough in the old days and all that, but maybe take a minute or two and explain, like, what did it take back then to get your message out in the form of the music that you wrote?
Well, you had, okay, it was very simple yet very tough. Uh, Radio ruled the world at that time, and television, those two things. And You had to get with a major label, a major record company had to have your stuff, and that would be the most important thing. And of course, they would take most of the money back then. Uh, but You'd have to get radio play, and the radio play would then hopefully sell records, and then you would hopefully make money off the publishing and off the record sales. Well, now the difference is, yeah, you have the internet. You can go on there. You can take your camera at home and do whatever you want to do. But you still got the same problem in that you got to promote it somewhere. People, you can put stuff up on YouTube and Spotify and all that, but it's just going to sit there if it's not promoted. So you're going to end up probably spending some money having to promote your product and what you're trying to do. So it's different, but it's good and bad difference. I mean, it's easy to, I can, write a song. I can take AI and write a song in 10 minutes, stick it up on YouTube. Well, you're going to get 8 views. I mean, you're going to have to spend some money on it. So, but that's okay. I mean, if you got a few bucks, and you want to invest in what you're doing, that's fine. And I mean, I still continue. I've got songs out now, doing pretty well in different places. But I had to learn this whole new system. I mean, completely different from the way it was, back in the day. And nobody, yeah, you're right. Nobody wants to hear about, I walked to school 10 miles and all that stuff. Who cares, you know? But yeah, I would say if I had to pick between the two, I would rather be trying to do what I'm doing now because at least you got an opportunity if you got a few bucks to promote. But back in those days, if you couldn't get a record company, forget it. You're out. You're done. The only thing you could do, there was one little trick you could do. If you could get a local radio station to play your song, which was very difficult, but if you could get them to do that and the song would get some response, well, then you could try to get another station. And if you could build a little bit of a momentum on your own, pressing your own records, then sometimes a record company would look at that and go, well, we'll take that, we'll buy that master, we'll put it out nationally. So that was, one way to do it. But I mean, getting paid back in those days was awful. I mean, they really raked you over the coals.
Well, you bring up the topic. Chapter 3 in our entrepreneurial roller coaster is all about sales. You got to sell. I think it's like sell, sell, sell. Like the whole chapter is because if you don't sell anything, then you don't have the business. If nobody buys it or buys the product, you haven't started. So any start talking about that. I'd like to hear more about how the students can do in terms of selling.
Yeah, well, in the music business, you've got a couple of options. Maybe that you wouldn't have. Let's say you're selling, I don't know, candles or whatever, and that's going to be your thing. You want to make your own soap or something, and sell that. Uh, you got to sell that item to make money. With music, you can make money by people just hearing your stuff. They got to pay you, like YouTube pays for views, Spotify pays for views. These companies. Now you got to get a lot of them, but so sales is separate, and you like to get sales, but a lot of people just want to go on and listen. They don't want to buy your whole CD. But if you have a particular product, then you're going to have to again spend some money um, to get that product out there where people and everybody. There's so many millions of people out there, or hundreds of thousands, I guess, that are promoting their own stuff. So there again, you're in a war. You're trying to get through all that stuff and have somebody. I mean, if you can get someone to say, "Yeah, I like that," I mean, that's hard to do. It's so hard to do. So you just have to uh, keep honing the product and trying to make it better and spend a little bit of money on promoting it.
Well, I didn't intend to do all the asking here, so I'm going to ask those that are on Zoom if you want to put a question in the chat. Hopefully, I've turned that on. I'll check it in just a moment. Or anybody here has a question that I'd like to ask Jerry. Yeah, Brian, I've got a question for you here, Jerry.
Was Pac Man Fever your first big hit, would you say? And how old were you when you made it?
I think I was around 30 years old. It was our first big national smash, but we'd had regional records out prior to that went into the top, when Billboard Top 100. But yeah, that was our first major record, and it continues to be part of is pop culture now, and that's what they tell me. I'm part of pop culture and all that stuff. But that's because it's really many people have said that it's kind of more like the song's more like a historical record of what was going on in the 80s. Because when when Pac-Man came out, there was nothing else going. Well, there was other games, but I remember when Pong, when you would go into a bar or something, and that simple Pong game, you have to pay to play that thing, and of course it was, nobody cares about it now, but it was our first record, and it's been just it never goes away. It's always there, and it's also because we're part of the. I mean, Pac-Man has established himself, the whole game thing, and the '80s stuff is people like a lot of the '80s music still. We get kids 8, 9, 10 send fan letters and wanting autographs and stuff. So it's just amazing because I mean it is it's older music, but it somehow on its own it still maintains part of pop culture. So it's just a different kind of record than I've got other friends with hit songs and everything, and they're just not remembered as well as this one.
I'm going to give you a stumper here. I got a couple of questions. One is, how have you seen the entrepreneurial process change from when you first started to our generation? What other advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur? Thank you, Aaron. Maybe what advice would you give 21-year-old Jerry Buckner?
Oh man. Well, I mean, the advice I would give a 21-year-old would be, so, I mean, everything's so fast now. That's the thing I see. It's everything's just very quick. You really got to be on top of stuff now, and things can change so fast. Back, in our day when we were doing stuff, I mean, things weren't going that, changing that fast. So you just got to be on top of stuff all the time now. What would I say to 21-year-old Jerry? I would say, uh, probably it's not a good idea to try to start a family when you're early on in what you're trying to do, because it's just not fair to them, because you're going to be busy all the time. If you're really into what you're doing, it's going to be a night and day. I worked with Waffle House and did all the, most of their records in the jukebox and all that. That's a whole other story. But Joe Rogers Jr., who ran the company, I mean, all that Waffle House was it. That's all these people live for. I mean, it's always about what's going on at Waffle House, and so it's that kind of a thing. So I would tell Jerry, you probably want to spend some time, on your own, trying to work on this, so you don't, you try and do a family and you're always gone, you're out doing stuff. It's not fair to the family. So I would just say wait on that, Jerry, before you do anything, and I would recommend that to other people. Although sometimes, if you're married, your mate, the girl or guy you're with, can help out a lot, But I used to, it's funny, I used to bring home songs and play for my wife, and she really had no interest in it. And she'd go, well, I don't know, I guess it's okay. So in that sense, it was it wasn't very helpful. But uh, I guess that's the main thing I would tell a 21-year-old Jerry. And the only other thing is you just got to go out there and do it, and take your hits and learn. Um, but it, it it's tough. It's tough to give advice to Jerry back then, because things were so different. So I guess I'd say do what you were doing, I guess.
Okay, terrific. This is another question from the Zoom chat. This one's a little different. We have Professor Wynn here with the project management course students, and they ask that their course is focused on project management. Can you tell us about the process that you take from an idea to a finished record? Is it an intentional process? Do you make it up as you go? What's that process for you? Or maybe it's changed over.
Yeah, I think artists have different ways of going about it. I get an idea for a song, and I would start working on the lyrics and the hook. What they call the hook, that's the part, it's repetitive, people like. And so you start working. Paul McCartney, on when his one of his big songs, Yesterday, was called Scrambled Eggs, when they were working on the lyrics. So you get this idea, and I was always good with melodies, and Gary was really good with lyrics. And so, but I would we you write the usually write the chorus or the hook first, write the verses. This is how we would do it, and then you decide how you want to go in the studio, and how you want to go about doing it, and in that process. And then we would sometimes a song you could write it would come real quick to you, and I would say most of the songs that I've ever written that have been successful I've written them pretty quick. Um, at least the idea, but some take a long time, some don't. But you get the song, and you work on those lyrics. I mean, that's the important thing, is to get every word counts. Every word counts. So you want to get the right lyrics and then the right music. Then you try to get arrangements and get the arrangements, and then you do it. And and that process can last a couple of weeks, or it can last several months. When we did Pac Man Fever, CBS Records, after it was going up, being a big hit nationally, they said, okay, we want an album. Well, we had to go out, and they wanted it like yesterday. So we had to go out to some of the game rooms each night and find a game that was popular at the time, and and then get someone to explain to us how it worked and everything. And we'd be up half the night. We would come back, and then we would maybe get an hour of sleep, and then come back to the studio, and then we would write the song, and then do the arrangements and everything and record it. So we actually put that album together in 2 weeks, which was just unbelievable to do it. But it was without sleep and all that. But different writers do it different ways, but that's kind of how they do it. And now things are really good now with AI. You can go in and take your lyrics and put it in, and the AI can help you get everything the way you want it. And then musically, I mean, you can record a song now that just sounds fantastic with AI in 5 minutes. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot longer, but so there's great opportunities now in our business but again, everybody can do it. So you got all this competition, and it's really tough.
Well, I'm really surprised to hear you say that as a musician, because I've heard from musicians, artists, and from many other industries worried about AI, saying, well, why would people buy my artwork? They can just get this thing. And why would they buy my music? Why would they want this service that I offer when they can just, AI is going to take this over? But you sound really positive, like, oh yeah, you can use AI to do that. That just seems kind of different from what I expected.
Well, I love AI. I love it because in the old back when we were recording Pac-Man and all on those days, you'd have to get a drum sound. It'd take you all afternoon just to get the drums mic'd the way you want them, and then mic the guitars, and it just slowed the process down. And you wanted to get moving, let's go. And with AI, now, I mean, I don't go into AI and say and with the title of a song, the lyrics, and say, give me a song. I have to work with it. I've learned how to work with it to arrange for arrangements, and I might do 20 versions of a song till I get it the way I want it, and the lyrics will be mine. So I kind of work with AI. I don't just use. I think most people, especially if they're not in the business, they're just going to go in and say, "Hey, make me a song" or whatever, and that it's not going to be a professional song. But AI, I mean, I can go in and get what I want. I can select the kind of instruments, the music, and I can tell it what I want it to do. And you got to learn to talk to it and how to get it to do what you want to do. But it's just fantastic. I welcome it with open arms. I think it's for music. I don't know about other stuff. It maybe artwork. I don't know how it works, but I love it for music because I can get a beautiful recording and not have to spend 2 days just getting the instruments to sound right. So yeah, I mean, it's going to eat us all alive eventually. Let's be honest. I mean, it's the voiceover business is basically gone now because people can go get AI voices. I don't think they're as good. You can kind of tell they're not quite as good as a regular voiceover. But I love working with AI. It's been great for me.
Sure. Okay, so we've got this gap before AI becomes our master, so we got to kind of
Yeah,
strike.
yeah, it's gonna rule us one day.
I'm going to look for another question on chat, but any questions from those in the room that want to ask Jerry? Yeah, Berkeley.
So I'm in an organization behavior class. So my question is.
Can you hear that? Should I?
Maybe you need to repeat it for me.
I'm going to just repeat your words as you say it.
Thank you. How did you maintain motivation to overcome the challenges?
How did you maintain motivation to overcome the challenges
And the hindrances that come along with the creative process?
and the hindrances that come along in the creative process?
That is a great question. And Matt, you and I talked about this before, how to overcome that. What's interesting, and I remember this is where we talked uh, about who was the actor we talked about? Clint Eastwood. Uh, Clint Eastwood told me, or not me. I mean, he told an interesting philosophy that, or when he was coming up, and he said, when when people tell you you're doing okay with whatever you're trying to do, whatever your product is, or whatever is your actor or artist or whatever you're doing, your product. If they tell you that it's really good or you like it, well, that's great, but that's not really as motivating as when somebody tells you they don't like what you have. And he said that motivated him more because the people that would say, I don't think you're a very good actor, he would say, okay, well, I'll show you. And he said that would drive me more. And I think that's a lot of truth to that. Is that's one thing that can help motivate. If you believe in yourself, you say, hey, I believe in what I'm doing, my product, I believe in that, and I'll show you. I'm gonna make it. And that was that was for me. I mean, I used to think that all the time. Like, okay, uh, one thing I had to learn too is that many times people that whatever you're involved in, you're trying to do, and you got to encounter people about it, to try to sell or whatever. I used to think that these people that we were going to knew something that we didn't know, and we finally figured out that they didn't. They didn't know any more than we did. And we probably knew a little bit more about what we were trying to do. They didn't know, so they would just send us out the door. So motivation, I think it is maybe not for everyone, but I think you'll find that if you got that kind of, toughness about you, and you really believe in what you have, then people that tell you you can't do it, well, hey, I can do it. So that can be a good motivation. But I think believing in yourself and and not letting people tell you, that you're wrong. That's their opinion. They don't know. They don't know that you're. And so many times, I've seen other situations where people have continued on when everything was against them, and then they did it because they believed they just had to mold the product and keep at it and not let people. Don't believe them. Don't let them put you down. Just be tough. Believe in what you're doing.
Great answer. And this notion of seeking advice, I told the students once before that some of my big mistakes was asking for advice from people that, just like you said, they didn't know anything more than you, but I kind of put this, aura on them, like, oh, they're older than me, or they're more experienced, they should know. And those were decisions or things I should have made myself. Have you been in that situation where you asked maybe too much advice, or you took advice and you're wishing that you would have just gone with your gut?
Well, there was always a saying that uh, if you're gonna fail, at least fail doing it your way, not fail doing it somebody else's way. And I really believed in that. I mean, I thought that was a pretty true thing. I mean, if it, I don't want to sit here and go, well, I did this major move because of what this guy said, and I should have done what I thought. And it still may have failed, but so what? At least I did it my way, because you're going to have to, uh, to come to those kind of decisions.
Have you helped others be successful, launching their ideas, providing wisdom, direction, mentoring
Um,
folks?
Well, yeah, you try to do. We've done that. I mean, you try to help other people, sure. Your friends and so forth, what they're doing, you try to do that. But everybody's going to have their own path, and as I say, there's going to be doors that'll come open occasionally that you want to be ready to walk through. Um, but yeah, we've had a couple of friends have done. Now I know that Gary met a guy who was a songwriter, and he introduced him to some people in the business, and the guy became very successful. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had several hits that he was a writer, and so yeah, you want to be open to help. We did other groups, produced other people. But then, you know, we were doing that, and some guy sent us a song or something, and I don't remember. And anyway, eventually we get sued by this guy out in Nebraska saying that we stole the idea for our song from him, which was ludicrous. I mean, it was not even close. But it cost us a lot of money in legal fees to have to fight and this happens to people in the business a lot. You probably seen, like, the current kind of songs. I can't think of one right off the bat, but where, people, they try to sue you because, there's a guitar lick that sounds the same or something. I don't know, but it's that happens a lot. And what they do is these attorneys know that you'll settle, before going to court, and just to get out of it. We tried when they sued us. We offered them $50,000 just to settle, but it was they had no grounds, but it was costing us so much money in legal fees to fight these guys. So um, that's that's one part of it that's not good.
Well, you said that, as long as you love what you do, keep it going. If you didn't love what you were doing, you might have given up at that point, and
Never thought about giving up. Never. Um, but I tell you what's strange is once you have success with something, whatever you're doing, you can't sit back and go, all right, I made it. You can't. You got to drive even harder. That's what I learned, because it's you got to keep that same energy and drive to keep moving and keep going forward. Sometimes people will just, they get a certain point and just say, oh, okay, well, hey, I made it. Well, you might have made it, for that month or that day, but you want to keep driving and keep going. And it's hard. It's harder to, when you've got that example of the success you've had. Now you got to try to match that in your mind, and many times you can't. We were lucky. We've done a lot of other projects, and we've worked for Disney. We've done some things, and been very fortunate. But sometimes people just, they're tired of fighting, I guess, and they just kind of give up.
we got some students from the music department here as well. So there's one specific to music on Zoom. What advice would you give a talented songwriter when nothing pays? Let me get the actual question here. Like, what's the pathway? Grab that question. What advice would you give a talented songwriter today to make it in the industry when people aren't paying for music? What's the pathway? I know you make, 2 or 3 cents, for every 100 plays on Spotify, or, whatever the game rate, but what would you advise to our music students here at UNG?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a tough situation. There's a writer up in Nashville that's had 4 or 5 big songwriter, and he's only made like 40 grand. I don't know why that would happen. I mean, I guess he's got a bad deal with his publisher. But it's publishing is where the money is in music. It really is. Other than, well, concerts, I guess now the ticket rates are so bad, but the publishing, the artists really struggle to make much money on recordings. But if you own the song, then you're going to get money from performance on broadcast radio and TV, and then also on the internet. And you're right, Spotify. I mean, you'd have to have millions of views to make money off them, but they're good for exposure. And YouTube, you can make some money on, if you want to spend a little bit of money to promote it. But again, you've got to you get into the promotion business. But you kind of do everything yourself now, and you learn. You make a lot of mistakes, but you learn.
Yeah. Any more questions here from the class? I'm going to grab one more.
On that same question, if you like, for example, I've got a song, and you can sell CDs, but not a lot. I mean, most people want digital. Now vinyl has come back doing pretty well, so you can do that. But there's ways to earn money with your songs and not have them be a big national hit. You know, you might not be making, you know, two, three, $400,000, but if you got a song that makes you 50 grand this year or something, I mean, that's pretty good money, you know, if you're a writer. Uh, so you just got to investigate. The one good thing about the internet, there's all kinds of places. Sound Exchange is something where if you're an artist, they're going to pay you money because you're an artist on the song. Okay, then you have ASCAP, BMI, and they're going to pay you on performance. But then the internet's going to pay you on performance too. Through there's at least 30 of these sites, social sites that will play your record and so forth, play your song. And there's satellite radio. I mean, there's not a lot of money there, but so there's a lot of opportunity. You just got to go find it and search it out, and you got to spend a lot of time on the internet to get things done. That's what I've found, but you can do it.
This is a question from a student that's talking about music in your experience, but it's also about any product. When you're designing products in general, songs in your case, for public consumption, what tools and processes did you and the record labels use to ensure that it's well received prior to release? And that goes with a lot of products. You try to do the pre-sales and the try to get that exposure out there. I did that for your presentation here. Your signage was up and such. Try to get some enthusiasm. How is that? What's your take on that? Or your advice
Well,
for?
Again, we're talking about promotion because the internet's great, but you're in competition with millions of other people, and so you just got to find all the different ways. I know the song, that song that was a hit a couple of years ago. What was it? I can't think of the name of it. But they literally, by using the internet and just going everywhere they can. Well, even uh, Taylor Swift. I mean, she started out going and doing stuff, showing up on herself and putting stuff up and all that. And so that is is promotion. I mean, that's all I can say is promotion. Whatever way you can do it. If you have no money, then you go do all the stuff you can for free. Spotify is good for that because a lot of people will hear your music. You're not going to make any money off of them, but you just want to use every tool that's out there on the internet to promote your product. And you got to rise above everybody else. And to do that, it's going to take up, you're going to do it night and day. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work. You can't just, do one thing here, and it takes a lot of research and finding all the opportunities that you can find to get your music out there and get it heard. It's not as challenging as it was back when you just had radio stations. At least now you can get something out to people. It just depends how much money you want to spend or whatever, but promotion is the key.
That kind of speaks to the point about whether it's worth it. Had a student write on a paper one time, because we're talking about this. They hear your words and at some point say, "Well, is this even worth it? Like, why don't?" But a mentor of mine, Mitch Axelrod, talks about different types of entrepreneurship practitioners. You could be a small business owner, you could be a free agent, but you could also be an employee at a really, I'm University of North Georgia. North Georgia is a great university. Being an employee here is a great choice. So why, what if the entrepreneurial roller coaster, seems too scary, or like, well, is this really worth all the effort that goes into it? Why don't I do something else? What would you say to somebody that doesn't know if this is all worth all the stress and headache and sleeplessness?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think again, that's a personal. You've got to come to some sort of decision on your own. Yeah, is this worth it? I mean, it's like I being honest myself. Doing what I did, spending all the time doing it. It did affect my personal life and family life in some ways. That I because I was always gone and, and making a commitment to what I was doing. For me, I never really thought that because I wanted to do what I was doing and I was going to keep doing it. Now, would I have stopped at some point? I guess. I mean, you get to a point where you go, well, hey, I can't have any success, so I guess you would. But I never thought that way. I just thought I believe in what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it because I believe in it. And it can get tough because people around you, your family, can go, hey, this is going nowhere. We don't have any money. What do you? So again, it's checking out your own heart and your own mind and what you think. I will tell you this. I used to think that when I would have to be working and doing all this stuff and maybe not, with the family as much as I want to be, I used to think, well, I'm going to keep going because I'm going to have success someday. I believe in myself. And then when I do, everything will be fine. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, if you're, that's why I mentioned, you may want to wait a little bit before making, commitments that you can't do like the other partner would want you to do, and it could weaken what you're doing, and everything could fall apart. So that is one aspect of it. I think that that you have to consider when you got to you if you're doing what you should be doing, you're going to be busy doing what you do every day, night and day. I mean, literally. I'm always thinking of ideas for songs. If I hear a lyric or whatever, I mean, it's just part of who I am, and whatever you're doing needs to be part of you all the time.
All right. Well, for the final question, I'm going to leave it up to our guest. Is there a question that I didn't ask that you'd like to tell the students? Do you have I know you have tons of stories of of the famous folks you've come across and all, but I'll leave the floor open to you if you want to give one last bit of advice or a story for us before we go.
My advice is to the songwriters in the room: keep writing songs. Just keep writing. If that's what you love to do, keep writing. If you want to play an instrument, keep playing your instrument. Get become as good as you can. If you want to produce, then produce. You can produce in your own house now. You got you can make a song up in your own bedroom. You got the equipment. It's just keep at it. Don't stop. If you stop, then maybe that's not something that would maybe be an indication that I guess this is not going to work. I mean, if you don't have that drive, but just keep writing. I had one of the top producers in the country at one time years ago, and I had to play some of my songs for him, hoping to, and I was not real sure of myself at that time. And so we went into the studio. He said, okay, well, let me hear your songs. So I started playing a song. He was sitting behind me. I'm on the piano. I played a little bit of it and stopped. I was very nervous. And then I would go to the next song. And I did this like 2 or 3 times. And he said, hey, stop a minute. He said, two things. He said, I think that you're not saying what you want to say yet. You need to work on that. You need to keep working on writing the songs. But he said, don't try to figure out what I'm going to like and just stop and go on to the next thing. You don't know what each person's going to think. So give it some, be open. And if you got a product or whatever, believe in it and go all the way. Don't cut yourself short. And so I never forgot that. And it was good advice because he was right. I can look back on that now, and I was fragmented on what I was doing. I wasn't, I didn't know exactly. But over time, I learned how to write music and songs, and there's a certain way to do it. People think it just comes up, like I did, and that's just not the case, So keep doing whatever you're doing and getting better at it.
Yeah. You didn't finish your story earlier. You said Paul McCartney said scrambled eggs, but I believe the song was Yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah, Yesterday. Yeah.
Well, the lesson I drew from that was Yesterday became one of the most recognizable, highest selling songs of all time, but McCartney didn't have a word for it, but he didn't let it stop him. He just said scrambled eggs, da 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 da, scrambled eggs, not knowing. So he kept going on, even though he didn't have all the pieces yet. And then yesterday must have come into his.
Yeah, I've heard other people say, successful people say that you'll know if your song is a hit. Other writers that had hits, and I don't, I don't know that I always believe that, but I believe it a lot more now. When you could just there's a feeling about it. You go, that this just fits together, uh, and but they don't always become hits because they don't always have the opportunity, and if so I used to concentrate. I wasn't a multi tasker or whatever. I just would key in on something and just run it in the ground, and but I think that helped me in a lot of ways. And as I get older, and especially with AI and the ability to do things quicker now and make songs, I think sometimes I get too far into doing too many things and I don't really concentrate on the one thing. I go, you know what? I think this is really strong. I want to work on this. So I have to watch myself with that, just not volume, but quality, is very important.
Well, Jerry, our time is up here. We got to move on to the next classroom, but thank you so much for taking time out, sharing your story with us. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you asking me to be there. I appreciate the students' questions and everything. I wish all of you tremendous success in what you're doing. And the fact that you're in that classroom tells me that this is something that you want to do. And so I just wish you the best and just keep at it. Work hard, learn about what you're doing, and I think you'll have a lot of success. And you got a great teacher there. Matt's gonna help you out a lot.
Thanks for the plug, Jerry. I'll see you at Ties there sometime soon.
Yeah, I got stories about your teacher I could tell, but I won't do it.
Next class is coming in, but thank you, Jerry. Thank you for everyone that's watching on Zoom, and appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.